Welcome to Buck and Bob Take on Chiefs Kingdom, a podcast for fans by fans where we hang out and just talk to friends about a team that we love. I'm Bobby, also known for my unpopular takes mostly, but I'm a huge Chiefs fan.
And I'm Buck. I love the Chiefs. I've been a fan since the mid-'80s, and I love to watch this team win, especially nowadays.
Well, let's get into it. How about them Chiefs?
Let's do it.
All right, so first off, I want to come in, just let everybody know, this podcast, the first part of it is going to be discussing last week's game against the Jaguars, where we lost 26-13, and then we're going to pause, watch the new game, and then we're going to talk about Lions versus Chiefs after. So there'll be two parts to this podcast, one before the game and one after the game. So that being said, let's get into it. Let's start out. You want to start out with our favorite thing that we saw in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm just going to take a wild stab here. It's probably the same thing. Carson Steele.
Yeah.
It's like, who is this guy?
Dude, okay, so I knew about him, but I didn't think much of it, you know, like they talked about him possibly being a fullback, you know. I was like, good, okay. Well, you know, we can use that. Like we were using our backup tight end in that role last year. His name's escaping me right now, but we can probably find him here on the list somewhere. But yeah, I was just like, okay, cool. And you know how I talked to you on the last episode about what I really wanted to see was Deneric Prince, you know, show me some stuff and show me that he can, you know, be that extra running back. And Carson Steele comes out of nowhere and just looks like Mike Allstott Jr. reborn. I wonder if there's any, you know, blood relation, but I mean, he's just like has that thing where he hits somebody and he, you know, slows down for a second and then it's just he's back moving again and the person's on the ground. And we haven't had a running back like that of that caliber
Since Christian Okoye.
Well, I mean,
I think.
Well, okay, you're jumping ahead of
word.
yourself a little bit there, but we just haven't had a bruiser, you know, like a bruiser back that could actually push it in at the goal line. If you look at all of the last few years, most of our goal line scores have been freaking like little passes,
speed plays,
or screen to the right, screen to the left, wide receiver tight end screens, or to Kelsey, or, you know, I can't think of us pushing it in on the goal line with a running back in a long time. And with our definite apparent weakness, it's a huge weakness of the Chiefs that we can't do a QB sneak because it's the cheapest play in the NFL. I don't care what Jason Kelsey says. It is the cheapest play in the NFL. It is not like what do they call it in Philly? I forget what they call it, but it's the tush push. No, they call it something cool. Yeah. They try to call it something cool. It's the tush push.
That's what
because we're making fun of you because it's the lamest play that should be outlawed in the NFL, in my opinion.
I don't think it should be outlawed.
But we can't do it as the Chiefs, so it's a huge thing that we can't do it. So having a back that can actually push it through, because every fullback screen I saw last year from our tight end trying to do it never seemed to work ever. So,
yeah, to add that dynamic to this offense, I mean, it just makes us scarier. Absolutely.
Really a lot scarier. And I am excited for it and just woo.
So speaking of scary, Hollywood Brown goes down on the first drive, potentially out for up to 4 weeks. That's a little sad. I was really excited to see him in the first week. It looks like we might have to wait a couple of weeks. Hopefully he's okay. But if they said it's a non-surgery requiring injury, so that's always a positive.
Yeah, we found that out after the game, which was good.
But the only thing that scares me on that is that, you know, you're always trying to push yourself, especially as an elite wide receiver. You want to be out there to prove your skills. He wants to show that he's a number one receiver, right? And so he's going to push himself and maybe come back a little bit sooner than he should. with this offense, and especially with the way this team performs later in the season, I would prefer almost err on the side of safety. Let's go 5 weeks, unless he's 90%. I think is my threshold for that. If he's not 90%, for our own good and our own longevity, let's keep him out. Obviously, we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but
and another plus is that it's really looking like if Rice takes a suspension at all, it's going to be later in the season, which, you kind of want him for that ending push, but it's almost looking like it's just not going to happen until next year type of deal. So that's a good thing, at least for the start, especially since he got hurt. And so that's a big deal. But what'd you think? Who did you like in the game?
There was a couple of really nice plays throughout the game. Hicks, we just kind of rewatched it here before we started recording. Hicks had that open field tackle on the punt return. That was beautiful. Absolute beautiful, man. The speed,
he went at it.
Yeah, the speed. And then he got down there and he didn't go for the ankles and wrap his ankles up like, a lot of arm tacklers do. He literally, we watched it over and over. He just stuck his arm between the guy's legs and tripped him up. And that's all it takes. But it was a beautiful, beautiful tackle. So I'm really excited about our special teams, although that's always been a kind of a strong suit for us anyway. Dave Tobe is an absolute genius. So Carson Steele, obviously, the defense gave up a big play right before the end of the half. That was a little sketchy, but it's second team, right? It's not starters. But then they got a penalty on top of it, a rough in the passer too. So it's just like.
Also, the Jags' first kick return was almost a touchdown, and then I'm not sure what the returner was doing. If he actually lost the ball, it got popped out, or if he was trying to lateral it to his teammate. I'm not sure what was going on there, but yeah, that was a little disheartening. I think it was the longest play that anybody'd seen. I don't know now, but at that point, I think it was the longest kickoff that anybody'd seen with the new rules yet. And so that was a little concerning. It was also concerning for me and I was complaining about it somewhere in the third quarter about why haven't they tried Zamet to just see a kickoff, what he could do. And then as soon as I say that, he comes out and kicks off and then, he kicked it great, kicked it right in between. I've watched a few other games. A lot of kickers are struggling to put it in the landing zone. Yeah. A lot of kickers are.
Yeah, they got to lay up a little bit too much.
Yeah, and they're using their actual kickers. So the fact that we saw both our kicker and Luis Zamet be able to do it, and, we're guessing Reed can, but we don't know. Reed might be, having power and accuracy to make field goals is very different from putting a kick in at a specific spot, that's more of a punter
absolutely
thing that they work on, and I know kickers do work on it a bit, but I'm interested to see as we go through the season how many kickers actually can do it.
Yeah.
Practicing it is one thing.
Now, I do want to kind of give a different spin to the kickoff return that you were just talking about. I think it's a good thing, to be honest, because this is a new kickoff rule with all new lineups, and nobody really knows yet how it's going to play out, right? And so for a coach like Dave Tobe, he needs to see what he needs to build for, right? So that's going to give him a lot of data to go off of, and I'll bet we'll see some different lineups, maybe some guys lining up a little bit in different spots and whatnot. Dave Tobe, he loves to plan. He loves to come up with different schemes. So I think it's a good thing. I think he wanted to see that kind of thing. And in the preseason, you're not giving up anything real. So.
Yep. And then, talking about the kickoff returns also, I'm sure you're just like me and everybody else where we got the safety and we read the kickoff rules to you line by line from the NFL last week. There was nothing that said, and then regular football rules apply or any deal like that. It said, if it lands in the end zone and is downed, it goes to the 30. Not, actually, we told you the 35, but they changed it like right before games started to be 30-40 to be less confusing for the fans instead of 35-40. So, yeah, it doesn't say if it lands in the end zone and is downed in the end zone, it goes to the 30. It just says if it lands in the end zone and is then downed, it goes to the 30. So I think the refs just made that shit up on the fly. I think it was a blunder.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't stay like that because I think that's lame. Because kickers are going to be trying to go for that type of that type of kick, and it's going to be annoying.
But this is the preseason for the refs too, and I think that they need to see things like that play out in the preseason so that they can be prepared for the regular season. I think that was a great play to happen. For the refs so that they can iron that out. Because once the season starts, man, when that affects a real game, I mean, we're going to go absolutely nuts. So, it's preseason for everybody.
Yep. But, yeah, and then talking about Louis Zammit, he did not look – on special teams, I thought he looked
really
great.
Good,
yeah, but – when we got him going in the regular game, he is playing with the backups and stuff, but he did not look comfortable hitting those holes. He did have a pretty good block, where it wasn't his guy, but the tackle let the guy go by, and he did, get in the way. But I think he's got some stuff to really work on. I'm sure. It was surprising for him to see the speed of the game as opposed to the speed of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you feel about the backup quarterback play?
I mean, honestly, all of them had pretty good stats. I mean, it's crazy. Book went 8 for 9, Mahomes 3 for 4, Wentz 4 for 4, and Odokin was the one that got most of the play. But they used a lot of running plays during. He was 7 of 10. He looked pretty good. I need more time to really see, but
with the eye test, I was not that impressed with Oladokun. He was probably really nervous when he first came out. He definitely looked like a third string / practice squad guy. He did kind of warm up a little bit, as you said. He ended up 7 for 10. But I don't think I expect him to make the 53 man at this point. I think
he seemed prone to run, and I don't see Andy keeping more than 2 quarterbacks total.
Yeah,
but yeah, could be a practice squad guy. Book, I don't know, man. They put him in late. I don't know what to really like. The later the quarterback gets a shot, the less starters are in there, and it's the less starters are in on the other side as well, so it's hard to it's really hard to gauge what's going on. But I thought
and I think this game's
quarterback play was okay.
This game's going to be a little bit harder to gauge against the Lions because apparently they don't really play any starters at all during the preseason. So we're just going to kind of have to take anything with a grain of salt on that. We're not going up against starters, even our starters.
Is that like a Lions thing in general?
That from the fans that I know, yes, that's how I understand it. He likes to keep his starters fresh for the season, which I don't agree with because to me that makes them rusty when the season starts. But we all remember what happened week 1 last year. They came out and made the Chiefs look silly week 1. So can't really.
I think the Chiefs made the Chiefs look silly.
Yeah.
Really,
but the team that was on the field was the Lions. So,
and we unfortunately propelled the Lions into confidence, which took them many games on. You beat you beat the former Super Bowl winners on the first game, and it's What are you gonna do?
So you said earlier you had been focusing on Deneric Prince a little bit, and Carson Steele kind of stole his thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take Carson Steele out of the equation. How do you think that Prince looked?
Prince looked okay. I mean,
I think he looked a little bit better than okay. I think he had a couple of plays that weren't. He may have gone down a little early, Larry Johnson style, early in his career, but I think he looked. I think if Carson Steele, if we weren't talking about him, if that didn't happen, I think we would be fairly pleased with Prince's play on the field.
You say went down like Larry Johnson, and Larry
His
Johnson
first
was
year. You looked at him.
Freight train.
With the first year when you looked at him, he went down.
He was. I don't
got
know.
better. He did. He got better.
He became one of the best running backs in the NFL.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like a stat fact, to say the least. He was the number one pick, like 1 year across most fantasy teams across the nation.
And the head coach had to call him out for being a baby.
Well, Andy spit on a girl at the Country Club Plaza. He wasn't a good guy. No. I didn't say that, but he struggled a little bit in the beginning. I'll give you that, but he became just shortly became a powerhouse of a running back and would just run people straight through. But yeah, I don't know. Steele, I can understand why Steele and Edwards, Allaire they're very similar. It feels to me at this point. I was kind of bummed with his performance, but we'll see. We'll see.
So another thing I kind of wanted to bring up with you, they mentioned during the game there was a new challenge rule, and this confused me. Maybe I'm just kind of a moron to the rules, but I always understood that you get 2 challenges, and if you win them both, you get a third challenge. Is that they said that was a new challenge rule? Is that not the way it's always been?
That's the third challenge. I believe that was in. Maybe it was only in the playoffs. Last year, maybe that's the deal, but or maybe it was a misspeak on their end. But they definitely made a note saying it was a new challenge. It absolutely, I had to pause it, rewind it to listen to it. They definitely said new challenge rule. So maybe it was the challenge rule only in playoffs. That's very possible that's it. But from what I don't know that I've ever even seen 3 challenges in a game or that I can actually recall. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Write into us, comment on YouTube. Let us know if you know what the actual rule is. But I'm pretty sure that's been in, but it could have just been playoffs because the overtime rules are different in the playoffs also. So it's very possible the playoffs have a slightly different set of rules.
So I know it's early in the preseason. Do you think anybody played their way off the team in the first week? Do you think maybe Zamet maybe played his way off maybe one of the first guys off? I think he may have a chance making the special teams, but I think that we saw enough positive out of the other running backs that I don't think that he'll make the roster as a running back, at least not right off the bat. You never know what could happen in week 2 and 3 of the preseason, but it was definitely lackluster.
I still think with Reed being banged up, I think Zamet's has a very big possibility of making the team just because of special teams. Mm-hmm. But then who gets dropped? Like that's a real zinger there. But if he goes to the practice squad, I think he gets grabbed off waivers because just looking at the kicking struggles of other teams will definitely have a spot for him. So,
and not just the kicking, but his coverage was really good too. I mean, he got down there and he found the guy with the ball real quick. So I agree. I think if he makes it to the training squad, I think another team will definitely snap him up.
Yeah, and so it's possible they do keep him, and I don't know, maybe we have a lot of linemen on the team. Maybe I don't know. But it's hard to say who would get the cut for him. And then I don't know if we can change. I don't know because we had the exemption on a lineman. I don't know. I forget that lineman's name, and I don't know if he's doing well. I don't know if we can change that international player. There's a rule for an international player to be able to be on a team without affecting the 53-man roster. So it's really the 54th. And I don't know if they've seen enough from our rookie, or if they just, feel comfortable putting him on the practice squad, the other guy that's international. That could be a thing. And then Zamet would be safe on our team, because I think Zamet by next year could turn into something very different with his work ethic and everything else. So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see, but I remember seeing, that first kickoff. I remember seeing our kicker right there, and he was right there by the pass and couldn't do anything to help the team stop the run. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I would be surprised if they cut him right now, at least.
Yeah, I think he'll be one of the last guys to be decided on for sure. Anything else you wanted to cover?
There was something else, and now I'm blanking here. The one drive by Steele, was just absolutely amazing. Watching him run people over.
I hope we get to see him run with the first or second team this week.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a lot more of him possibly. And then hearing his story, do you know what his pet is that he's had for?
No, I
think he's had it for notes. 9 years. I watched his press conference. He has oh gosh, I forgot his name. He has a pet alligator that he's had since high school.
Wow.
A pet alligator. There's a picture of him holding it.
Yeah.
It's a huge, 6-7 foot long alligator. And he calls him Crocky J, I think is what his name is. Crocky J. And they asked him if he was, if he makes the team, if he's gonna, move him from because he's at his parents' house. He couldn't go to college with him. He was they were, asking if he was going to move the crocodile here, or it's an alligator, but he named it Crocky J when he was a kid. So, but as we was going to move it here, and he's like, I don't know. There's a lot of permits and everything else you got to have. So I don't know if he's going to come or not, but I thought that was hilarious that he has a pet alligator. And he just seemed like a real cool, down to earth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where he's from, but he sure seemed very Midwest.
He did, but he also seemed very comfortable. He didn't look nervous. It didn't look like the game was too fast for him. And this is just the start for him. So I think he's on an upward climb, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him. I really do hope he makes this 53-man, at least based on what I saw the first week. It's obviously very early. You never know.
If he keeps it up, I want to see him as our number 2 running back.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Third and short back. That would be, he looks like he can catch too, from what I've seen. It could be real cool, man.
So you mentioned the number 2 running back. Did you listen at all to the halftime when they had Pacheco mic'd up at all?
Yeah.
He sounded like Patrick Mahomes his first couple of, man, he's such a positive vibe. He's such a I love that energy, man.
Some of it was like, okay, this guy could get a little annoying at times maybe, but yeah, I love the enthusiasm, but some of the times I don't know if I could just see Pacheco. All the guys are trying to relax after the day of practice and training camp, and they're sitting there just trying to chill and relax. And young Pacheco's coming in and go, yeah, woo, ha! And they're like, Pacheco, just turn it off for tonight. And he's like, oh, I can't. So well, you love to see that. You'll love to see that.
I think the attitude towards that kind of thing really kind of depends on the winning culture, right? On the Chiefs, that's going to be a very positive thing. But if you're on a team that's losing all the time, you're just like, shut the hell up, man. I'm tired of hearing it.
Oh man, but yeah, he's definitely he's the Energizer Bunny is how I kind of see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you saw? I'm excited for the game to start. I'm excited for all the things going forward. I really hope that I get to see Steele here play a lot more. I hope I get to see a little bit more of Mahomes, and hope I get to see a TD, like a passing TD. But, if we just see rushing TDs, I can deal with that.
Yeah, sadly, we were talking in the last episode, we talked about the first play of the game. I thought they might try a play action pass to Hollywood downfield, just to kind of show the NFL that we've got some speed now. Sadly, I was trying to stream the game. I went to 2 different services, started 2 new subscriptions, and they were blacked out on both. And just to find out that it's broadcast live on local TV here, it was just a channel I did not expect it to be on 38 The Spot for sure. But
yeah, and it's on 38 The Spot again. I went out and had to buy an antenna because for some reason 38 Spot is not on YouTube TV. Like, get on that, 38. I don't know what you're doing. Have you not been paying attention? Even Travis Kelce talked about YouTube TV while he was at camp during one of the press conferences. They asked if he brought a TV down, and he's like, "No, I'm going to watch the Olympics on my phone, YouTube TV." Have you guys not heard of it? I mean, you need to be on that. But I went and bought an antenna so that I could watch it locally. But the good news about that is now I'll use the antenna to watch every game, no matter what channel it's on, because if you guys didn't know, the absolute best picture you can get is actually the broadcast picture. Once it goes through cable, it's compressed and a bunch of other things, and you actually get a worse picture and worse sound. Whereas if you watch it straight broadcast, you're actually getting the best picture for live sports that you could get. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it kind of forced me to go buy a nice antenna. So I'm kind of excited to watch it with that. But there was a lot of frustrated fans out there in Kansas City, and a lot of bad communication, and my mom was having struggles. I was trying to watch the game, but having to answer all these different people asking me questions. I had to walk my mom through getting the app and then tell her how to stream it to her TV. And I missed the whole first quarter of the game. I had to rewatch it later.
My mom and I were texting each other back and forth. She's like, "Did you find it?" I'm like, "No, not yet." She's like, "I think it's on this." Yeah, my frustration is you go online, Hulu.com, Hulu Live says, stream all preseason games with us. So cool. I start my subscription and my preseason game, the only one I care about, is blacked out. Which I understand all that. Just don't, maybe put that on that screen, all preseason games except for your local ones, because those are the ones that are going to be blacked out, and those are the ones that most people care.
And it's because the NFL, the NFL network's showing all of them, but the problem is that they're blocking it out. If you can get by it with just a VPN. If you want to use a VPN, you can get by it. And just have it tell them that you're in Florida, and you'll be able to watch it. But it's really dumb. Like, if you want to have us watch it locally, you got to really communicate in this day and age, because a huge amount of people do not have antennas anymore and do not even watch. Like, they have, lots of people don't even have cable anymore. They have subscription services, and that's it. And you need to figure that out. I don't know if it would go down to your TV station just charging NFL Network for anybody that they see actively live watching it. I mean, those stats are there, but either way, you need to figure that out, because there were a lot of people pissed.
Yep. So anything special you're looking forward to in this game?
Looking forward to seeing Steele. I'd love to see more of him. I'd love to see, I'd love to see Worthy get a nice long catch or something, just something cool. I'd like to see Justin Ross. Got to see him a little bit. He only had the one catch, but I think he has the chance to really shine. I'd love to see that. I don't want to see our he who must not be named. We don't need to talk about him, but I don't want to see him and Tony.
I'd like to see a little bit more of Remigio there. He had a really good catch, but he kind of almost screwed it up. The commentators mentioned, he jumped. He was clearly open. I don't think he needed to jump. He could have had some yak after that if he would have just slowed down and catch it. I think maybe it was a little bit of nerves, trying to go out there and prove himself among the other guys.
Yeah. The jumping thing was weird, but
he made the catch. It did get overturned. The fumble got overturned and he was down. So that's great. But the play still happened, and it came down to a ref call, and you don't want it to come down to a ref's call, right? You want it to be sure. So I don't think it was a huge blunder. I don't think it was anything that we really need to be all that concerned about. Like I said, it was probably just oh my God, how open am I? And he just kind of freaked out for a second. So I'm excited to see. I think they'll focus on him at least a few plays just to see what he can do after he catches the ball too. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got a lot to look forward to. Bolton was a monster on defense with like 4 tackles for a loss and eight tackles overall, and I don't even think he played the whole game. I'd like to see more pressure on the quarterback.
Yes,
it was amazing seeing how much less pressure we have without Jones in there. Yeah. Jones really disrupts things, and I'd love to see an outside rusher really, come into fruition. George Kaloftis has been pretty good, but a lot of times what I see from him is coverage sacks or sacks he gets because Jones breaks a bunch of stuff up and pushes the quarterback into him. I'd like to see just a pass rusher, come out and really
dominate.
Yeah. And if we had that, I mean, we'd be unstoppable. But I didn't see much of that. And I'd also like to see I'm really scared about our tackles. I'd like to see them really shine. And yeah, the rookie looks good, but he's still a rookie, and he's in the left tackle spot. And yeah,
that's
so
blindside
I'm a little worried. And then our right tackle was the most penalized tackle, maybe the most penalized player in the NFL last year, but definitely the most penalized offensive lineman. And he just needs to stop jumping early.
I think they spent a lot of time cleaning that up, especially later in the season. It definitely went down, and I think in the offseason they kind of sat him down and said, "Hey, let's not leave any interpretation here. We're going to get you lined up. If you get beat, then we'll figure it out." But I'm interested to see Wentz look a little more comfortable. I think it's clear he's going to be our backup at this point. I don't think that's there's any reason to be concerned anybody else might step up into his shoes there. So I'd really like to see him get a full 2 quarters of play here today, maybe even a little bit of play with the first teamers, just to kind of get him settled down a little bit. I mean, we know physically he's got the physicals. He's got what he needs to get the ball where he wants. He's a big guy. He's fairly fast. He's fairly mobile. His decision making at times, he seems to be a little flustered. So give him a little more time with them out there, a little more comfortable with these receivers. I'd like to see him feel a little more comfortable back there. He definitely looked rushed in that last game, especially that fumble that he fell on and lost a bunch of yards. At least he fell on the ball. He didn't try and get up and do too much. I mean,
it was a really high snap. I don't know.
It was. I
don't know if that was our starter there in behind center, but Mahomes, I mean, that's one of the things. The high snaps are something that have happened last year too.
Humphrey did have a couple.
We need Humphrey to work on that a little more because he's amazing. But I've seen those high snaps a lot. Patrick Mahomes has just gotten used to it and usually catches them. But Wentz, probably just nerves. But I think that we really need to have Wentz get. Yeah, I think I agree with you. We need him to have more, but I think he'll be. Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that the other 2 guys take over. But who knows? I don't know what Wentz is making. Like if I don't know what type of deal he's signed. So maybe they do choose somebody else. I don't know.
Boy, I don't think so. I don't think they'll make a choice like that financially over financials. I really don't.
Well, it'd be Cap that I would think that they'd be like possibly looking at. That's what I was saying. If he's making a big chunk of money over the other guys, I could see that coming into play. Like, is, the cost versus reward, because most likely the backup's not going to play, so. And if one of these other guys look good, that it's the type of thing where they could be learning from Mahomes, possibly come in for a few games and then become trade bait for the next year type of deal, so that's something that's kind of in my head there too.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
You want to go watch the game?
I'm ready to go watch the game. I can't wait. I got Chiefs fever. Let's make some brats.
Watch the game. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
Latest in the Menjay.
And we're back after the game.
Wow, that was a fun experience, man.
It was a fun game. Bummer the Chiefs lost right at the end. It was it's a bit of a bummer, but it's weird to say that I'm glad we got to see our punter kick from the back of the end zone
successfully, and it was a good kick.
Yeah, because he's been knocked for being slow to get the kickoff. It's one of his knocks. So it was good to see him do that. But there was a lot of exciting stuff that happened in this game.
It really was a fun game to watch, man. Early on, it seemed like they were targeting Worthy super heavy. I mean, it almost seemed like every play was going to Worthy. And I've got a few different notes about the Worthy thing. Right off the bat, I felt like I was expecting more separation. I didn't see a whole lot of separation. I expect him to hold on to the ball. He wasn't. He did drop the ball once, but then that touchdown from Wentz on his first drive. I know it wasn't a long drive, but I mean, Worthy definitely got the separation there, and it was a beautiful floating pass from Wentz.
Yeah, it was a 39-yard pass, and the best part is, and what excites me about Worthy is the ingenuity in route running. Lots of guys will just run routes, but the reason he got so much separation on that TD is because he did this little stutter step thing, made the defender plant his feet, and then took back off. Yep. And he was just free. But yeah, he was targeted 6 times, caught 3 of them for 62 yards total, and 1 TD. So I mean, I would have liked to see him catch more of the ones that he was targeted. But hey, I'll take it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly know that the Detroit Lions, they were playing a lot of their second string. They really don't start a lot of starters in the preseason. So when we had our first team offense out there, I really would have liked to see them look a little bit stronger. But again, it's preseason, and we know Andy Reid does not like to show his hand in the preseason. So I think that with the exception of the behind-the-back pass to Kelsey, which was amazing, I think it was a pretty vanilla look from Andy Reid. And I think we can expect that, on Thursday's game as well.
Well, and if we're talking about receiving, Rice looked great, targeted 4 times, caught 4 of them. His long was 14, but it was, only for 35 yards. But I think what I realized that Rice he's not the big play guy. He's the possession receiver over the middle, not afraid to take a hit. Like, he's that guy. And Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are supposed to be more of our big play guys. But Cornell Powell had a big big reception. And man, I thought he was a tight end because he looked so big, but we looked it up. He's only 6 foot 200 pounds according to NFL.com. So
well, even after we looked that up, then they showed a close up of him, and he looks like a beast, almost like T.O. built. I mean, he was a big boy. Yeah. So, but the speed that he put on after he broke those tackles too was pretty amazing.
Yeah, he looked good. Nico Remigio looked pretty good. I mean, he's targeted 3 times, caught 2 of them, only for 16 yards. But you got to look at his special team stuff. He had some pretty good success in some of the returns.
That return, he got almost to the 50. I think it was 47 or whatever, and he ankle shoestring tackle right at the end. If it wasn't for that, it probably would have been a touchdown. But it is what it is. But it was an amazing return. I think, honestly, all of the receivers that were out there today had, showed up a little bit at least.
We got to get Xavier Worthy to hang on to the ball. Luckily, he got his own fumble back, but we cannot have you fumbling that ball. You need ball security. That's what I loved about the Powell TD is at the very end, he's running the last 7 yards. He was and he like lifted that thing up and he put it right to the top of his chest, and he was not going to let them punch that ball out from behind. And that shows remarkable
maturity.
Yeah, and it's a veteran move.
That's exactly what I was thinking. He didn't look like a new guy out there. He knew not only that he needed to do that, but he knew exactly when to do it too. It was the right timing, right at the very end, the last 10 yards or so. Yeah,
good instincts. Because he definitely couldn't see behind him.
I think he moved up on the roster with that one play. Honestly. Sky Moore, he didn't show up on the field as far as receiving, but he had a return as well. Right after the Remigio, he was the next punt returner, and he returned it to the 47 as well. He looked really elusive there.
It's still just I don't know. There's some bad juju with him, We're not talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. It was just bad juju with him catching punts because, I just still can't go back to the year that he just kept dropping them. Oh, gosh.
Well, I think it's a little different. He's not being expected to play that role now, so it's a little more of a by committee thing, at least during the preseason. So he's really not under pressure to make that his role. Yeah. But speaking of... oh, crap, it's him again. Tony was out there for a punt return. Tony was out there for a couple plays on offense, too. Made me real scared. And he didn't look pretty, but he didn't have much opportunity. There wasn't a real, the throws that were thrown at him weren't good throws. So at least he didn't tip it up for the defense to catch for the most part. He did on the one, but man, that wasn't his fault. It was so over his head. I think he was trying to knock it down there. I really do.
Yeah, he only got 2 targets, but they didn't look good. Like Justin Ross had no catches, had 2 targets, but looked good on the one catch.
He did have a catch.
No, he didn't.
It was out of bounds.
Yeah, it was out of bounds.
It was a beautiful catch.
I think if they would have been able to challenge that or something, I watched the replay. His second foot might have come down. It's just his foot came down between the field and the line. So if the ball or toe of his foot came down first, I couldn't see from the quick replay they did. But if that came down first, then it was in. If his heel came down first, it was out. But I think that might have been in. And I think those are the type of catches he can get. I wish he would have gotten more shots. McCole Hardman didn't look, I didn't see anything from him that looked great. He was targeted twice, missed both of them.
He did. Yeah, he was targeted. He didn't have any separation. They were almost 50-50 balls, and you want your receivers to get half of those, right? It's a 50-50 ball. So it was a small sample size, and we know his history. He's not the receiver that you don't want on the field. Like for me is Tony, but I think he's making this roster. I do.
I actually don't think he's gonna make it now. Just looking at all the other possible people, I think he's been a good tweener player for us.
Yeah,
but. I think his time might be up in Kansas City at this point, but I could be wrong, kind of transitioning over to running backs. I was wondering if Carson Steele was going to be able to catch some balls for some yards, but, he caught 2, but he was only targeted twice. Mm-hmm. But he only, the longest was 6 yards and he ended with -3 yards. So the screen they tried to set up, which I'm not a big fan of the screens all the time. Like,
yeah. I just feel like they fall back to the screen way too often. Honestly, I think it's part of the strategy. I think they're trying to keep the defense honest, but it just isn't fun to watch so often for me.
Yeah. And like, I just don't know if we have the line for it and everything else. And the screen specifically that Steele got blown up on, it was our good old right tackle. Although he didn't get penalized today.
Right. Yes, he didn't. Although there were a lot of missed penalties too on both sides. I think I personally feel like the refs are probably being told, hey, let's keep the flags in our pockets unless it's something that could be dangerous, maybe a little bit more than they will in the season. That remains to be seen. But if that's not, then I think the refs have a lot of work to do through the rest of the preseason as well. So, but you mentioned Steele. I think he looked good today. I don't think he looked great, but
I was hoping to get like confirmation that Steele was the guy, but I didn't today. Now today, Deneric Prince looked great. I mean,
he did
7 carries for 47 yards. Now, there's a little.
Most of that was on one. One play.
41 yards on one.
But
carry.
Man, did he turn on the Jets when he got around the corner? Though I didn't realize. I haven't seen a play with him yet that he really got to get out there at full speed. And I mean, he almost changed his running style. He looks like he's got short, quick steps when he's running, but when he gets out there in space, they become long strides, and he really got going.
But that was really the only highlights in the running game was his one big run and Xavier Worthy's end around for 11 yards. And that was the one that he fumbled on.
Yeah.
So did the running game still really lackluster. And if we don't get that going, it's not going to open up the passing game enough. I mean, we need people to be scared of the run or play action is worthless. And that's a big problem, I think, that hopefully we can get solved. But I do know it is preseason. Isaiah Pacheco only got 2 carries, so we can't read into it too much. We could just look at like what we might have for the future. I feel that's why coaching in the NFL is so hard, especially, with these things. But, you look at the Lions, and the Lions backups looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like,
I was really impressed with the quarterback play in the first half and the running back play, honestly.
Well,
that last drive to end the half was, I mean, it was mean.
I mean, they had over 100 yards with everybody. We had 74. So, it's like neither were amazing on any end, but it almost feels like just the league just isn't like, it isn't built for these anymore. These like these different like running teams, like it just doesn't work, it seems. So I don't know, like I'll have to keep going, like I didn't used to look at all the stats all as much, but with this podcast I'm going to continue to just be learning more intricacies of the game and stuff. And I really just think the league is built around passing now, and safeties have gotten so good. But, we talk about that, but at the same time, you look at all of the I lost my train of thought there. You look at all of the the missed tackles, like the missed tackles for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Were pretty bad today. I was, the defense looked good. We were getting some pretty good pressure. I mean, there was often a lot of time to throw, but it was just, it was kind of bad.
I have that note too. Especially towards the end of the first half, and then all throughout the second half, they seem to miss the first tackle every single time. I know that the running back that was catching a lot of the passes, he looked really strong and he was a bruiser, but when you get paid a lot of money to make that tackle, I definitely would have liked to see more from the defense today, for sure.
And then we were talking about the refs too. Man, that face mask on Pacheco early on in the game was unbelievably blatant.
Yeah, it
ripped his head around.
We noticed it immediately.
We were talking about during the game. Like I said, I wish those were reviewable after the fact because it's so dangerous for the players and it's just horrible. And you pointed out, well, you want to just say,
I mean, I see your point, and I don't disagree that play could be reviewable, but I don't like the idea of stopping the game for every missed call. I mean, we're talking about stopping the game 3 or 4 times a half now for things that should have been caught by refs. Maybe an extra ref on the field.
Here, I'm actually talking, you know, and I know they do have the booth upstairs, but I'm talking more a ref on the camera. Literally just on the camera.
Yeah.
Like somebody watching.
Get to see exactly what we're seeing.
Literally watching the game and being able to mic right into the refs and be like, face mask just happened. Like, I mean, that could be huge. I know the booth upstairs calls down. I don't know exactly how that works, but I feel like that's something that a extra ref that's just watching the live feed,
the ball, stay with the ball,
could just say that immediately to all the refs in their ear, face mask, and then they could call it, and then maybe they uncall it. You know,
yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like
they review it, and
they could make it without game stoppage. They could make this type of thing happen, I think. But maybe an extra ref on the field, maybe that's the play. But every ref you have on the field is another opportunity for a player to run into him, you know, like them to screw up the play. I've seen refs screw up plays being in the wrong spot and stuff too. So
I don't, you know, I think your point is really good. If you've got, you know, you've already got the refs on the field, you know, you've got a ref that's always watching the quarterback. You got a ref that's always watching the line right when they snap the ball, right? So they're not necessarily paying attention to where the ball is, but to their specific zone. But if you had maybe a ref on camera that his job was to watch the play as it unfolded and stay with the ball, maybe they would catch more of those things. Maybe it was just the refs that were, it was just outside of what they were paying attention to at the moment. It was easily missable because he just wasn't part of what they needed to pay attention to at the time. That's not a bad idea. You know, keeping one on TV and then he can just, instead of throwing out the physical flag, maybe he's just got a cough button to hit. And
I feel like he just says face mask. And then one of the other refs on the field throw the flag. Just all of the refs throw the flag.
Sure.
And then they always do their little go talk to each other. They could go talk to him. I mean, I don't know if you guys could hear it on the pod, but just in the background, my dog got mad about it. You know, like we're talking about it, and he's upset.
Yep.
Because it was just a horrible face mask. And then
really was. Yeah.
You've got these other things. I mean, there was the non-call on pass interference on Ross on one of the plays. I mean, it's just.
I noticed several holdings on both sides, and I know there's holding on every play, but I mean, I'm talking. Guy had his arm around the throat, and on both sides. This is not a, you know, the Chiefs got screwed type thing. This is, I think the refs have a lot of work, just as much, maybe even more than the players do, especially with the new rules, the new kickoff rules and stuff. So, I hope that they get that figured out. But I'd like to see something different with the missed calls for sure.
What's funny is watching the game live. I thought Carson Wentz looked good.
He really did. He looked better.
Well, that's what I thought, but I don't understand this. I don't understand the stats. He's 5 for 10 for 31 yards and a TD. But
it definitely felt like more than that.
Yeah. Worthy's reception alone was 39 yards. So where'd all his yards go? Was it because of the one, like, you know what it was? I know exactly what it was. It was the huge miss on the ball and the huge sack.
Yeah, that'll get you.
Was that twice? It happened twice, didn't it?
Still only 30-something yards.
Yeah, well, you lose all of those yards on sacks. So
Still, I would have guessed he would have been over 100, 150 to 200. It is what it kind of felt like. He did seem to matriculate the ball down the field pretty well. He looked a lot more in tune with the offense, in tune with the plays that Reed was calling. He seemed more in tune with the receivers, and he seemed like he was less flustered. He really seemed flustered last week. Yeah, to me,
so?
I thought so.
I didn't notice that as much.
But this week he looked much better. And we've talked about Carson Wentz, and I don't hate the guy. But I just don't see him as the guy that he was supposed to be. A good backup would be great. I guess I'm worried about, and I shouldn't be with Mahomes, but any kind of controversy where the guy thinks that he might be able to take over. I know when you're coming in behind Patrick Mahomes, that's impossible to think, but these guys have egos the size of Texas. They all do. They all think they're the greatest. That's why they're there. So it was good to see him looking better. If he embraces the role as backup, and he truly does, then I think I'll probably turn my opinion around pretty quickly. But anyway, it was good to see his play today. The eye test is what I'm going by. I know you're looking at stats. I'm not. The eye test he passed today for me, and it was going to be harder for me than for other people who aren't necessarily a hater. I'm not a hater, but
I still think he's definitely our backup.
I agreed. Yeah,
Oladukin looked
better.
Looked pretty good today. He didn't get as much playing time, but I mean, he did. I mean, he did stat wise, 6 of 7 for 99 yards. He did have that one where I was really scared, where he was running way back, and we were hoping he'd be able to get it back to the line of scrimmage when he threw it out of bounds. But it was just rough. But Patrick Mahomes looked good, and are we going to talk about the behind the back pass?
I mean, the behind the back pass was amazing, right? We went crazy when we watched it. I know I've seen clips. I'm sure you've seen clips of him doing it in practice and training camp, but to see him do it in a game was pretty cool. But for me, it was the interviews with Mahomes later, and then Kelsey after that, and they were just jabbing at each other. I love the camaraderie, not afraid to talk shit on each other. It's nothing but love and respect, and it was truly entertaining.
Mahomes said, for anybody that missed it, Mahomes said that the reason that happened was because he was mad at Kelsey because Kelsey had ran the wrong route, and so he just flipped it behind him, to spite Kelsey.
And he's like, "That's what you get."
And then Kelsey comes on and interviews later, and he's like, "No, don't let him lie to you." I mean, he mumbles a lot. You know how he's like, "Oh," he does a Kermit. He did his Kermit the Frog impression. He's like, he mumbles, you can't hear him, and so I was just like, don't let him lie to you. I wasn't in the wrong spot. It was pretty great.
It was a fun interview. Speaking of Mahomes and interviews and whatnot, that halftime film where they showed all his highlights from training camp, and then they had him mic'd up the whole time. That was really well put together, and that was really fun to watch.
It was.
What an amazing leader. Like you can see, some guys when they lead the team, you can tell it's an effort. It's almost like something clicks in their mind and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've got to say something now." And so they say, "Hey, good job, team." But with Mahomes, it's almost like you can't stop it. It's just part of who he is. It's his natural personality.
Or what you see is they get a big head. The fact that Mahomes has, I saw him getting the big head going into the Super Bowl against Tom Brady, and it scared the shit out of me. That was after he'd won his first Super Bowl. He went in with that, like, you could see it. Like, the big head was there. Now he's flipped the script, and he's, he always says Tom Brady's the GOAT, all this. But leading up to that Super Bowl, he was kind of like drinking his own Kool-Aid. And I was so scared because that's what I said about him after his first year playing, is I said, man, I hope he stays humble and stays a student of the game, and he could be better than Tom Brady. And that leading up to that Super Bowl with Tom Brady, I was really worried about him. And And it seems like he has really got that back into check over the last few years. And he's really, he really is a leader. And that's what I love. When you look at someone like Aaron Rodgers, people just don't like him, man. Like, I don't know him personally, but people just don't like him. No matter how good of a quarterback he is or was, we don't know if he still is, but yeah, like people just don't like him. And the fact that, and even Tom Brady, lots of people don't like Tom Brady from his teams,
Yep.
Like Tom was a hard ass and pushed people, more like a dad, whereas Mahomes and that mic'd up thing seemed like more like a big brother supporting you.
Or the cool uncle, yeah.
Rather than the knucklehead dad that's always like on your ass about shit. Because that's what Tom always seemed like with his players, like would yell at them and would, and like different leadership ways work in different ways, So it's not to say that style doesn't work. I mean,
Tom Brady
really
won 7 Super Bowls with that leadership style.
Yeah, exactly. I just respect the Mahomes leadership style more. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for the season.
Yeah, they were talking about the broadcast. If Mahomes plays as long as Brady, he's got 17 seasons left or something silly like that. Like it was.
I thought they were talking about post games won. He has 17 post games won.
Oh, I thought it was how many seasons he'd played. Anyway, if all he needs is 4 more to catch Brady.
Yeah, 4 more playoff wins to beat Brady's all-time wins, maybe. Correct us if we're wrong on that, because I think we're both might be wrong on that one.
I mean, I personally feel like at this point, Patrick Mahomes is probably the greatest to ever play the game, but Tom Brady still has 4 more Super Bowl rings. So to take the GOAT title away from Brady is really hard for me. It really is. Now, if they win 3 in a row, I think he gets the GOAT, but I still think he's the best to ever play. And I don't think that Tyreek Hill is better than Patrick Mahomes, no matter what he thinks.
Oh, God. Dude, Tyreek's got to do that, though. But, okay, so there's been a lot of different arguments, and I agree with different ones. And the best NFL player, you have to say what that means. Okay, so if the best NFL player is the one that the 31 or 32 of 32 teams would choose over any other player in the NFL, then it's Patrick Mahomes. But I have heard the argument that if you're talking the best overall football player, then I can see the quarterback for Baltimore,
Lamar.
Lamar Jackson. I could see him being the best player in the NFL because you could almost put him in any position and he could have success in any position. So as far as the best football athlete, I would say that Lamar Jackson is the most physically gifted and the best athlete in the NFL. But
it's still not Tyreek Hill.
So you have to, but I don't think 32 of 32 teams would ever take Lamar Jackson or Tyreek over Patrick Mahomes. See, that's the difference. Patrick has all of those the word for it's escaping me, but
intangibles.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. He's got all of that, and you can't train that.
Right.
That is something that's usually learned with wisdom and experience. The fact that he's so ahead of the game in his career with wisdom and experience is just uncanny.
And leadership. Natural leadership ability. Yeah. Yep. And Tyreek doesn't have that. He doesn't have the leadership ability. He's somewhat of a hothead. We've seen a lot of
somewhat. I mean, off the field, the guy's almost gotten in fights in so many different places.
Yeah. And we've really only seen him in winning positions because he is an amazing athlete. He really is.
He's got Napoleon syndrome.
You could definitely label him as one of the top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver in the NFL.
He's I would label Tyreek as one of the best that's ever been.
Yeah, it's possible.
Wideout. But a wideout I would never see as the most important player in the NFL. Even Jerry Rice.
Yep. I agree. And I think Jerry Rice would agree with you because I think he's the kind of guy that wants to be true and honest to, if you ask him who was the most important player on his team when he was the greatest, he would tell you it was probably Joe Montana or Steve Bono when he was playing with him. I think, and that's the kind of reaction I want from a receiver. I don't want to hear what Tyreek said. I'm the best player. I'm better than Patrick Mahomes. He straight up said, I'm better than Patrick Mahomes. Sure, I'm better than Patrick Mahomes. I agree. Okay, maybe he's got to say it, but I want to hear the guy.
Oh, he's never going to be humble. He's never going to be humble. And you don't want your wide receivers to be humble. If I'm being honest, like you want your running backs to be humble, I think. But your wide receivers, the diva's got to be there, but wide receivers, they're wide receivers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like you think about Calvin Johnson, one of the most dominant and amazing, gifted wide receivers in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And what did Detroit do? Lost. And Detroit's got a history of doing that to some of the greatest players of all time.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, Barry Sanders. So I don't know how people could be fans of this organization when they've squandered so many of the greats.
Well, I will say,
you, Damien.
So, to give them props, though, the last 4 years since Dan Campbell has taken over, he has turned this team around, and they are contender. They're serious contenders.
We're just taking jabs at a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we don't really. There's very few NFL teams we actually hate. So we're kind of half joking when we're doing that. I think keeping things civil is always something you should be doing in sports. And whenever you get into altercations with somebody over it, I think you're doing it wrong.
So let me ask you a question. We talked about the good and the not so good. Was there anything bad, like really negative that came out of this game that you really hate to see? I've got one thing on my list.
Well, the main thing on my list is but I want to talk about one more thing before we move on to that.
Okay.
But it kind of goes together. So we were talking about, the linebackers situation, and like I was a little scared because Tranquil was taking over Gabe's spot. He wasn't going to be there to back people up, but we tried out the two backup linebackers today. Like they got most of the play time, and Swayze Bozeman, I like to call him Boozman, and Christian Roland Wallace really played well, and it made me really feel good about our depth. And we had some really good coverage from corners. The only thing that I didn't like, they were good against the run as far as not ever giving up a big run, but they did just let the Lions have long drives. And I know it's the backups, I know, but that's Mahomes and company's kryptonite. Keep Mahomes off the field. I want to see a lot faster pass rushing. I did see, Karlaftis wasn't in long, but he did have a nice solo get around the side.
He did, and he had some pressure
quarterback.
too. Yeah,
and so I was feeling good about that, but I really feel good. Like your Mike lineman, which basically we have two Mikes, which is basically the middle linebackers. We don't really play the traditional 4-3 anymore. Almost ever that I see. Usually we're running more of a nickel package, and we've basically got two Mikes in the middle, and that's what it kind of seems is the package we run a lot. So yeah, I'd really like I really like the fact that we have some depth at that middle linebacker position, and man, I don't know. I don't know about all the extra quarters. Lots of them had some good plays today, and so I just don't know. But that was all I wanted to really talk about. But that goes into what I talked about at the start of this segment of the show. I really was upset with the amount of missed tackles we had.
The missed tackles, but the big negative for me on offense, at least, and I know I've I've beat this Tony drum to death. He had, and I believe it was his first play of the game, he had 2 different penalties on one play. He was lined up too far outside, I believe, and then he had a holding penalty after the play started. And that's inexcusable. I mean, penalties are a team killer, right? They're drive killers. To get 2 on one play, what else do we need to see? I don't know what else he has to contribute. I know that they want to consider punt returns for him, and they put him out there for 1. He just fair caught it, so he didn't return. He did catch it. He didn't fumble it, so that's a positive. But we had too many other punt return guys in the game that had much better returns, much better plays. So I just don't see Tony making this team on any aspect at this point. Not on special teams, not as a receiver. We talked about maybe in the running back position, but they haven't even put him back there, not once. So I don't see that happening.
I don't see him making the team either, especially with the wide receivers kind of stepping up, and just the fact that he's injury prone. He's shown many diva moments. He's didn't show up for OTAs. He's just it just looks like he doesn't want to make the team, and I'm not sold that he's going to make it.
See, I feel like he's, as you said, the diva thing. I think that he already feels like he's part of the team, and he's on the team because he was on the team last year. He won a Super Bowl with his team. Why wouldn't I almost feel like that's his approach?
2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. So why wouldn't he be on the team? You know, he was
actually a factor in the first Super Bowl that he won with us, but he was barely a factor until then. And, you know,
but last season, some of the woes were, I mean, there were 2 games specifically that he lost, you know, and that's debatable. You know, there were plenty of plays after that, but that was the big swing in those games. I just don't want to see Kadarius Toney on this team anymore. Nope. I'm sure he'll probably be one of the last cuts, is my guess. So they'll probably wait to the very end. So I'll be all anxious and worried about it until that happens. But I feel pretty confident now that that's probably over with. Now, if we see him on Thursday playing at all, that will worry me, because I think Thursday is going to be more focused on who they really feel is going to make this team, even if it is the last of the 53 guys.
Yeah, it's the dress rehearsal. You know, dress rehearsal used to be the third of 4 games, but it's still the third of 4 games.
Right. The third of 3.
Yeah. The third of 3. But, you know, we did see some pretty interesting stuff. And kind of what I expected to happen, like, with the new kickoff rules, you're no longer going to have the guys letting it hit into the end zone. Mm-hmm. Like, they're going to catch it every time and then decide to bring it out. Maybe that is better for the game, you know, rather than having them let it hit and then downing it, like, because sometimes they'll bring it out. You know, it looks like the best kick you could have is on, you know, it's going to land on the 2 or the 1. Yeah. I mean, the best. But you're trying to shoot for that like 10-yard thing. And Reese Zammit had a lot of kicks, and I really think he has a chance to make the team doing kicks, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was out in special teams a bunch, and I think it could be a really cool thing, and he could get some really good experience this year.
And speaking of the kickoffs, so one of the kickoffs, we had a conversation about this during the game, was Steele was back there and got the kickoff return. Now, traditionally, it's always a fast guy. It's your speediest guys, your speediest and most elusive guys. But with the new kickoff rules, and you've got the lines so close together, very close to where the kickoff returners are, maybe that's the big brain play going forward now, is that maybe it's not the fast guys, because there's not going to be big gaping holes necessarily. Maybe it's that big back that's got some speed, but it can also break tackles too. I mean, we'll definitely have to see how it plays out. We don't even know what the rules are going to be yet. They're still debating where the the ball's going to be placed after the kickoff is done. They were talking about that during the game. We talked about it in the first half of the podcast that they changed it to the 30. They still may change it back to the 35. I'd like to see the rule just stay as is right now and play a whole season with that. And then if next year we want to change it to the 35, that's something that we'll have a full season of data to see how it affects the kickoffs. But seeing a different style returner back there was really fun.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah. I like that. I'm still pretty like high on Steele. I was just, he had a very lackluster day today as opposed to the last time Andy was out there with the
first team.
Mm-hmm. But I guess supposedly the Lions just play all backups. So I don't know, but it also could be just, Andy says it all the time. He says, certain things will happen with a player, and he's like, I need to get him in a better spot. He said it about Mahomes many times. Mm-hmm. And, that's him taking, being a good leader and taking the blame. But I think he's actually being serious. He's like, I need to figure something else out, figure some better way to utilize his skills. And, that's what makes Andy
and he
one
usually
of the greatest
does.
coaches of all time. Yeah. It's going to be interesting just to see where we go. Next week is going to be exciting. And the week after that is going to be nerve-wracking.
First game of the season.
First game of the season.
Yeah.
One of the best teams in the NFL. One of the arguably maybe the second, third best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, and we're going to have to play our hearts out. But, still haven't seen Jones out there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Andy's just giving him the time off.
Yep.
And
that's what I think. Yeah.
Kind of BSing the injury, but
that's okay, because last season it was the holdout, right? Is he going to show up? When's he going to show up? How much money is he going to lose?
Boy, and I had a bad take last year. We talk about my bad takes at the start of the show every show, but I after he missed that first game, I was like, just get him out of here, trade him. I don't think he has the same values as Chiefs Kingdom, and I don't think he did at that time. And I think he came to his senses after the first game, and I think he changed his tone. And I don't know, maybe people pointed out Mahomes, always not really taking the best deal in the NFL for the sake of the team and for the sake of winning. Or Kelsey pointed out, maybe that was something that happened, because I don't know. It seems like he changed his tune, after he came back, and he was a different player. But at the same time, I also didn't, I saw him on New Heights podcast after he came back, and the guy was so funny. I never realized how funny he was and how cool he was until he was on that podcast. He has a pretty bad resting bitch face, right? Like on the sideline. And so I just always thought he was kind of, he came off to me as, one of those like mean dudes that won't talk to anybody and isn't fun. And, and I was completely wrong about him. So yeah, I'm so glad that nobody listened to my take on that, that particular take. I was also hurt. He was holding out on us.
Yeah, he was holding out. But yeah, well, and we all know that the defense with Spags always gets better the second half of the year. So seeing the defense, at least in the first half, doing fairly well, I think that's a really good sign. I think usually at this part of the season, we're bashing our heads against the wall like, we've got Patrick Mahomes, but this defense is going to kill us, right? But they've proven us wrong the last few years. They really, especially in the postseason, they really turn it up. And so I've, much like they say in Brett Veach, we trust at this point. In Spags, I trust 100%. I really do. Even with some of the sketchy play in the second half, I really think that they'll get that cleaned up. I really do.
I do too. And I think Ian Book kind of basically just
he had a tough go.
Yeah, he
really did.
I don't think he's here.
No.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's on the practice squad. I don't know. Like 2 fumbles in a row. One of them, was arguably not his fault, but you have to be able to, address that. What's funny is that I had no idea that. So we had the long snapper get hurt, like during the game, and I didn't even know that our backup tight end, gosh dang it, what's his name?
Gray?
Noah Gray.
Yeah.
I had no idea he had so many different skills because he was also the fullback option last year, Noah Gray. And now he was doing the long snapping duties too. Like, I was just like, wow.
And it was a good snap.
Yeah.
It was a really good snap. Yeah, I didn't notice it right away. You had said it. You were like, wait, is that Noah Gray on the field snapping? And I was like, what? Yeah, that was cool. It's fun to see a player get to do something out of his comfort zone and then be successful at it. Like when a defensive end comes in on a goal line play and as a tight end and scores the touchdown. Those are fun plays.
Yeah. So I don't know. All in all, I was pretty happy with the game. Pretty happy.
Very excited
with what I saw. I am so interested to see what cuts are starting to come out because, I saw a lot of good across
Absolutely.
A lot of players.
Yeah. Yep.
And I didn't, Allaire didn't play, man. So maybe.
Yeah, that was interesting. I'll have to find out. We'll have to look it up and see if maybe he was sick or injured. I didn't see anything before the game about him being hurt. So it was a little disconcerting to not see him out there at all, especially with the first or second team. But with the other running backs playing the way they are, it's going to be. See. I don't think he makes it, man. I don't know. Well, maybe him and Tony can share a cab to the airport. So,
oh, poor Tony. He made his own. He made his own bed.
He dug his own.
Made his own bed. Well, you have anything else you want to say about the game?
No, not necessarily about the game. So we did. You mentioned in the first half we're trying a different format. We did half the pod before the game, and then we're trying the second half after. I liked it. We'll see how it goes. Let us know how you guys feel. I'm right now in the midst of changing jobs, so my schedule is going to free up a whole bunch so we can fit a lot more in here in the next coming weeks. So just in time for the regular season to start. So I'm really happy. So let us know what you guys think as far as the setup is concerned.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it. I've never done a podcast of this kind, so usually my podcasts are very just like conversation heavy and just, deep diving into different things where I don't know that, you'll ever hear. I think you might get something different and weird, but you might find cool with this podcast where we actually talk about things like getting into Edwards Allaire's, PTSD and talking about how that might affect a person in the league. Most people are just going to talk about stats on ESPN and shows like that, where as we're going to talk about the human side of the game a lot. And hopefully you're as interested in those types of conversations as I am in having them. So, we'll just see. I think this is going to be a very different show for fans, by fans, and I'm excited for the future. And yeah,
this is going to be a fun season. It really is.
It's going to be a good time. We'll see you. Oh, wait, Buck, where can we find you?
As always, I'm on Facebook, and you can find me on Twitter. It's @Bucktastic, BUK_TASTIK.
And you can find all of our links in the description or the podcast notes. Be all the links to the Facebook, the YouTube, which should be up soon, and the Spotify and iTunes and all that, which is up now. So look for us there. And you can find me personally on Twitter @Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Go Chiefs.
Chiefs.